Hello, everyone. I'm Shailendra, and you watching the simulcast live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Have you ever wondered where the best places to work in Australia are, and how does it feel to work there? Great Places to Work released its 12th annual Top 50 Best Places to Work study, which surveyed more than 85,000 Aussies across 163 companies, and SAP came number 7. I thought it may be a great idea to bring to you the people who make this happen. So every Tuesday at 3 p.m., you will be able to meet the people at SAP ANZ. Please mark your calendars for 30 minutes and feel free to ask questions. This week, we have with us Adam Sivell, Innovation Manager, whose focus is 3D. We will get to know more about 3D in details with him. So without any further ado, let me invite Adam Sivell from SAP ANZ. Hi, Adam. Welcome to meet the people at SAP ANZ.
Hey, Shailendra. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. How are you doing today?
It's a beautiful day in Melbourne, like always. It's been pretty crazy this year, right? Up and down, and I think we're getting a bit tropical down here in Melbourne. So, no, I can't complain, mate. It's pretty good. How about you?
Very good, mate. It's cloudy at the moment, so most likely it's going to rain very soon. So, Sydney. Anyways, okay, let's start with you. So can you start by briefly explaining your career journey to date? Where are you from? What have you done? And, what's going on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I maybe have a bit of an unorthodox start to my career. Look, while I was at uni, quite a long time ago now, my dad and his friend got involved in this steel company startup, and they were over kind of strategizing at our house, and they said, "Oh, we need someone to drive the forklift. Would you come and drive it?" So, hey, I thought that was a great idea. And being a kind of startup in the steel industry, they didn't have any IT, and this was in the mid-90s, early 90s. Everything was cards and paper. And I'd had a bit of background with computers. I kind of grew up with them maybe at the right time, at the right place. And they got bought out a few years later by a large company at the time called Email, which, funnily enough, had nothing to do with the technology we all use now. And around that time, using email wasn't really much of a thing. But email was Electronic Meters and Associated Investments Limited. And they were kind of like a large Australian conglomerate that owned steel companies and building companies and all these kind of things. And so I started working for them and in sales, and then got into their IT department and just did projects, and then went off into, left them and went on to do lots of different types of IT projects around the world. So I guess that's how I got my start in those kind of things. And yeah.
So you said you entered the IT world, but what was it that sparked your interest to make a career out of it? Well, we are all intrigued by IT, and coming from business, I would say I love IT, but making a career out of it, how did that all happen?
Yeah, I think I had this affinity for it. I mean, I went to different schools up and down the east coast of Australia, and I remember probably when I was about 12, I got introduced to an Apple II, and I started learning Logo, so that would have been like the late 80s or something, around that time. And I just had this sort of affinity for the logic of programming and that kind of thing. And my grandparents saw it, and they bought me a TRS-80, and I got into BASIC, and then I always sort of, was a bit of an early adopter. I had built my own XT and 286, 386 Pentium, was on the bulletin boards with a 1200 board, dial-up modem and all that kind of stuff. And so I just had this natural affinity, and probably I was in the right place at the right time, to be honest. Like, working in the steel industry at that time, when I got moved into that company, they had a much larger organization. They did have an AS400 system, but no one really knew how to use computers, and I got involved in doing things like showing people how to use a mouse. They'd just never seen one before in the industry. And we introduced things like using a computer to do nesting, which at the time was really kind of cutting edge, because literally, pardon the pun, because they were used to doing everything on paper with slide rules, and the office was still laid out with like a secretarial pool. Where the sales guys would take the order and they'd hand it off to the secretarial pool, and they'd sit there typing it all up. So I think for me, I had this love of computers, and I was just happened to be at the right place at the right time as well.
So how did you end up at SAP then? And if I'm wrong, this is your 13th year?
No. I've been with SAP directly for 7 years now.
7 years?
But I guess that still company I was with, they, as Y2K was looming, and they had all these different organizations that they'd acquired. They were a real M&A kind of business. And they wanted to standardize, and they're worried about Y2K, and they selected SAP. And so I got involved in that project leading up to Y2K as like the business expert, representing the sales and distribution part of the business, and then later on the production planning part. And I guess I was lucky enough to learn quite a lot about ERP. It was one of the first mill product solutions projects in the world. So we did a lot of variant configuration, a lot of make-to-order kind of scenarios. So it was kind of complex at the time. And it gave me the opportunity to really kind of get into that process. And so that really sparked my, I guess, want to work for SAP even back then. And as I went on from there, I went to do many different projects in many countries, nearly always related to SAP. So, whether it was in the Philippines, in the US, in Barbados, all over the world, I did projects related to SAP. And I got into this sort of mobile edge computing space. So where a customer had an SAP environment and then they wanted to do something on the edge, maybe offline, that kind of thing. And I got, I did quite a lot of projects in that space. I even wrote a bit of a book about my experiences in that space. And SAP had acquired Sybase, and I was working with a partner organization, and I was at Sapphire the year that they announced the Sybase acquisition. And for me, that was like, well, hang on a sec. I'm working for a mobile technology company. SAP's just acquired Sybase. Maybe it's a good time to go and work for SAP. And sure enough, a role came up with a large multi-channel banking project here in Australia. And they needed a project manager who had experience running those kind of projects. And so SAP ANZ hired me to come and help run that program for the bank. And that's really how I got into SAP.
Okay, before we get into the next question, there are around about 15 people watching us live at the moment. And I would request all of you to please put in your questions so we can ask Adam directly. And, Adam is more than happy to answer those questions, aren't you, Adam?
I'll certainly give it a try.
Okay. So can you share one interesting fact about yourself that your colleagues wouldn't know about?
Well, I pulled something out of the archives. I mean, back in my 20s, I was really heavily into martial arts. And so I got my black belt, and, everywhere I went on projects, I used to try and find, a different club, if you like, to go and spend time on. Because sometimes I'd be, living in another city for 6 months or a year. And I guess one of the more interesting ones I did was when I was in Perth for a year on a utilities project, I started doing some ninja training, and I did that for about a year. So we did all sorts of crazy rolling and sword fighting, and yeah, it was good fun.
Ninja training. I'm
yeah. So that was a long time ago.
So are you the Bruce Lee of Australia?
Definitely not anymore. I hadn't really been keeping up with the fitness, and it is one thing that SAP encourages. I think now they have this Fit at SAP application. You might be aware of it, and it's about steps and setting goals and tasks and things like that. But about 18 months ago, I had this hernia trouble, and I had to have surgery. And since then, I decided, I better start looking after myself. So I took up running. It was really, it wasn't driven by SAP. It was just more because of my personal situation. And, now I'm regularly doing like 10Ks on the weekends. And because of that, and because of the Fit at SAP, I get rewarded by SAP for doing something to keep myself healthy. So, yeah, it's a good good incentive.
That's good. More than 20 people now. It hit 25 just then. And please, guys, feel free to ask questions. And please like and share this video so more and more people can get access to this. Okay, next question. Currently at SAP, what are your roles and responsibilities as an innovation manager? Now we're getting into innovation side of things, right? So what does it mean to be an innovation manager? What does an innovation manager do? It's something new.
Yeah, look, innovation's always been around, right? I mean, maybe it wasn't as formalized as it has been in the last sort of 10 to 20 years. But for us at SAP, obviously, design thinking is something that's kind of central to us, that we use all the time, not just to sort of reinvent software or to work with our customers and partners, but we use it internally. So innovation for us is something that we live by, and you can see that with SAP, how it reinvents itself and stays kind of ahead of the curve, and so innovation is central to that. And so what I do as an innovation manager is work with our services and our solutions in the innovation space. I help our customers and partners to run their best and leverage some of those, whether it's newer technologies or services to help make them innovative. Yeah, a lot of fun things, to be honest. Last week I was at an event for pumped hydro and battery storage, and we were talking about a co-innovation that we're doing using neural networks to help predict the price of energy and value the water in the storage of dams. And I had the opportunity to meet our former Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, and have a chat with him about it. So lots of different things, I would say, Shalendra, that I get to do, whether it's workshopping with customers or even maybe helping our own folk internally at SAP understand how they can be more innovative or how they can help our customers and partners innovate.
Okay. So do you do a lot of workshops with partners and your customers?
Yes, we do. So for different reasons. So sometimes I did one recently in the last couple of weeks with a customer in the education space. They were interested in trying to bring in an innovation culture into their organisation, and so for them it was important to kind of explain what we use at SAP, which is the human-centered approach to innovation. Which is, I guess, a holistic sort of end-to-end approach and you mentioned the 3Ds, and maybe you're going to ask me a question about it, but 3Ds kind of forms the central part of that. And, it moves from exploration right through to scaling with this part in the middle that I've got a feeling you're going to ask me about. So, yeah, we do those kind of workshops. We do workshops with customers on technology specifically, or maybe it's on process, or just how to manage innovation in their own organisation.
Okay, so what is your key focus for 2020? So we've started the year and we're in the third month, sorry. Time flies, it's already 3 months, 2 months gone. So what is your key focus for this year in your role?
Yeah, it's continuing to help customers and partners take advantage of SAP's innovation services and solutions. So, I really like, one of the reasons I got into this role, as I mentioned, I started my journey directly at SAP working in program management. And then I was lucky enough to go to Newtown Square to Philadelphia when I first joined. And I got to learn about a group at the time that what they do in SAP is they work with customers to sort of innovate, and then where it makes sense, where there's a business case, that may become new software that many customers in an industry or in a sector could use. And that was really interesting to me. I really like that story. And we can see that we've done that in the past with customers like, for example, in Australia here with BHP. So there's a solution called multi-resource scheduling that's used to help schedule resources and integrate tightly with the rest of SAP. That was a solution that started off for one customer, and then it became productized and is now available on the price list, and many customers around the world use it. So I really enjoy that story. I enjoy that process. And so my focus is really to help our, organization look for those co-innovation solutions, to just make sure that customers and partners know that we're an innovative organization. Because I think a lot of people, in the market see us as the company that provides the finance solution, that provides the ERP backbone. And maybe they don't realize, and I often hear this if I'm going to an event or I'm doing a demo, that, hey, we didn't know SAP did that. I think someone said to me at the Pumped Hydro event last week, why is SAP here? And then when we explained what we were doing, they were like blown away. So part of it's definitely evangelizing that capability that we have.
Sure. I know most of the people, when we talk to them, they don't even know what new stuff and innovative stuff that we are bringing to the table around the world. And some of this stuff is really, really cutting edge. So what is the best thing about working at SAP? Well, SAP, as you know, is one of the best places to work at, which was for the last 2 years. So what's the best thing about it?
Geez, hard to pick one thing. I'd say technology and people are two things that, strike me. Like I mentioned the story before about, co-innovating. I think the thing about SAP is they've been around a long time, and they sort of managed to stay ahead of the curve. So whether it's something like experience management that, we're quite, using ourselves and also helping our customers to do recently, or whether it's things like, investing in the cloud or mobile, like I mentioned before, in-memory database technology. SAP keeps reinventing itself, and that's kind of the core of innovation. I guess invest in experience. So to me, innovation and experience are really tightly coupled. Normally, it's hard to think of a case where you don't innovate and improve someone's experience, whether it's a user of some form or another. And SAP likes to, I don't know if you know the phrase, drink your own champagne. So SAP has a lot of tools and technologies that we use ourselves and that we make available to our customers and partners. So that's always sort of exciting as well. I think that people that we work with here are really passionate about their products, their customers. And that makes it sort of fun to work with, right? You want to work with people who are invested in what they're doing, and really enjoy it and feel passionate about it. And I think that's what makes SAP a great place to work.
Okay, from SAP to innovation. We were talking about 3D, and you mentioned about it. So what is this 3D?
Well, in the human-centered approach to innovation, we kind of have this methodology that stretches from exploring, what is an idea, or what are some things that maybe we should be thinking about, maybe they're future things, they're things over the horizon. And then once we kind of focus down on something, we have these, well, we're calling them 3Ds, but so it's discovering, it's designing and delivering. And I guess a lot of my career has been around that, doing a lot of projects and working in the innovation space. A lot of my career has been focused on those phases, if you like. And of course, after we, have delivered something, we want to be able to run and scale it as well. And so in the human-centered approach, what we do is we sort of rely on something we call FSDV. So sorry for all the acronyms, but feasibility, scalability, desirability, and viability. And for us, when we're talking to companies, that's what we kind of, emphasize. And it's something that comes from design thinking as well, is how to make sure that what you're doing is really going to add value. It's going to be useful.
Okay. So tell me, what kind of questions are customers and executives are asking you when you have a discussion around innovation with them? Is there any specific set of questions you hear all the time, or are there different questions depending on which industry and which company and which part of the world you are in? So what are the kind of questions? Maybe there's 5 or 6 common questions or something that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think the key one is, because in a way innovation's become kind of trendy, right? A lot of people, they ask, how can they be innovative in an effective way? How can they not just sort of throw money at the wall and hope something will spring out of it? And I think the advice that we normally give, and like I've done in many workshops with our customers and partners, is that journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Like you need to sort of understand where you are, and take some baby steps. Think about those processes and that human-centered approach, and get some sort of quick wins through a process. So don't try and sort of eat the whole elephant. That's really critical, I think. And a lot of people ask that because a lot of people are trying to do innovation, and maybe it becomes sort of like a trendy thing to do for a little while, and then other priorities come along, and then it goes away again. I think lately, especially, a lot of people are really interested in topics like machine learning, which is another area where a lot of people ask, like, should we be using it? How can we use it? Is it safe to use? Is it going to cause some kind of problem with our data? Is it going to we want to do it, but we don't want to cause any sort of troubles? These kind of things. I think machine learning is a really interesting topic that people are slowly starting to get their head around, and that we've been embedding in our software for many years. And I think, again, it's one of those areas where there's certain low-hanging fruit that, as an organization, that you can look at. And I'm really not one for, like, let's pick the latest trendy thing and try and find somewhere to shove it. I think if there's a business case, if there's business value, for me, that's always been the core of projects, right? Why do you do something? It's to improve an experience, to save money, to have more sales. There's got to be a driving business force behind it. So that's my advice to people who are interested in innovation.
Mm-hmm. Cirque du Soleil. So when you hear the name, well, I feel very excited. My children are very excited to know more about it, and so I think our audience would be. You spent a good time with them workshopping. So tell us what it's all about, and what did the customer learn from it, or what were the total overall learning?
Sure. Look, it was really a bit of a career highlight for me, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. I have had a few over the years, but that's certainly one of the most recent ones that was pretty exciting towards the end of last year. Look, Cirque du Soleil and SAP have been in partnership for, I think, about 10 years now. And obviously they use our software themselves. But I think one of the things, like you mentioned, and that I feel when I hear about them, is that, they really know customer experience and they really know innovation. So two things that I'm passionate about. And I was lucky enough to get involved with Marc Gagnon from Cirque du Soleil, who runs a kind of architecture innovation practice. The way Cirque and Marc's explained it to me is that if you think about their performers, they have to, try. And if they're not sort of pushing the edge and falling over and making mistakes and trying harder, they're not moving forward. They're not finding the latest thing or improving. And that's something that is really inspiring to me and to their and to our customers and partners as well as theirs. And what I guess we do with Cirque du Soleil as an organization is we work on a number of labs with them. And we talked about some Ds, but they have the 4 Ps, so what they do in their labs, whether it's for costumes, whether it's for lighting or stagecraft or the actual athletes and IT, they work a number of labs a year and they work through this process of 4 Ps. So it's proof of concept, prototype, pilot, production, and they're incentivized to fail. So the way they run it is they expect to have to do a certain number of proof of concepts a year. Each one needs a little mini business case, but they know that most of them won't move forward. But unless they're trying, they won't be successful. They won't continue to be the innovative company that they are. And so SAP and Cirque sometimes work together on those, and that's what we did in this case. So we wanted to explore something called emotional artificial intelligence with them, and that's using like a camera and AI to look at audience members and try and read their emotions and track that over time. And the way they plan the show, if you think about their show, if you've ever seen one, they plan it on what they call mood boards. So how should the audience feel? What do we want them to feel over time? But using analytics and using machine learning, they wanted to explore, could they use technology to help with that? And so what we did was we built a quick tool in 2-3 weeks that let them explore that. We got customers and partners together in Sydney, and we used them to be part of it. And we use that process to, I guess, explain how Cirque du Soleil does innovation, how they do it with SAP, and also some of the benefits of using tools like machine learning and prototyping and piloting to explore new frontiers of technology. So, that what did people learn out of it? We had a number of customers and partners there. So I think David Williams from Metcash was there, and I like a quote that he made, which was that he said that innovation is something that you have to work at. And I guess I like that quote because you can just get lucky. People can have a sort of brainwave, the light bulb goes off, and they're like, let's do this, and all the ducks line up, and they get the money and the funding, but really a lot of companies have to work at it. It's a process, and I think that's the important lesson from those workshops.
Brilliant. Next question: is there any one use case or one case study that you would like to share? You're excited about? You'd like to share with the audience, and something that will stay with you and you think was a great thing to do?
Yeah, look, there's quite a lot over the years that I've worked on. One that aligns really well with the human-centered approach to innovation is the example of Costco, and particularly Costco Bakery. So I think everyone, a lot of people who've been watching know Costco. We've been in Australia for a while now, and obviously, big in many other countries, US-based company. And if you know them, that you know that they also have services that they do in-house. So they bake a lot of goods. And obviously, when they're doing that, they have a bunch of wastage. So we worked with them through that whole life cycle of the human-centered approach. So starting from exploring what kind of challenges that they have, and one of the challenges is wastage, and reducing that wastage. Obviously, that saves money. It's better for the environment, all those things. Then moving on to discovering how we could do something about it. So, and in that human-centered approach, it's a lot of it's about empathy. It's about understanding what users are doing. So, watching the people who are involved in the processes, really sort of sitting with them, understanding how do they do the forecasting, what happens to all the materials, that kind of thing. Then coming up with ideas, ideating and designing a solution. So we're into the Ds now, and then delivering something in a kind of agile way, like a small solution first, and then testing that out with the users. So it's always feeding back to the users. And what we're able to do was save a whole bunch of money, like to be better than what their most experienced forecasters were. And we're using a lot of factors that come into this model. So it's using machine learning. So things like the weather, seasonality, historical data, to kind of inform what do we predict will be the usage in a given days, weeks, months. And consistently that's able to be better than their best forecasters. And where it really helps is when you don't have someone who is the local expert, because a local expert can be very good. He understands that local market, what's going to happen, maybe it's particular sporting events that happen on the weekend or whatever that would inform the forecast. So when you don't have the benefit of that, the system can really help. So that's a really interesting one, but there are so many. I mean, you no doubt heard a lot about the Office of State Revenue, another machine learning example. Fonterra, we've done a lot of great things with over the years. Pay-to-click. I mean, there's many, but I like the Costco one because it has the full life cycle clearly laid out.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now I'll jump onto the audience questions. There are
yeah. If you're there, ask away.
Yep, one by one. So let's start with Sonia Walker. I think she's from IBM. And her question is, what is the key growth area for revenue generation this year for the partner community?
Okay. Well, in the innovation space, I think we continue to have a lot of success with extensions using cloud platforms. So we see a lot of partners doing really well by leveraging cloud platform to do extensions that don't disrupt the core. So that may be building a new application, integrating richly with SAP data. We also see a lot of partners working in areas like robotic process automation, and also, leveraging technologies like we mentioned, like neural networks or machine learning to help their customers to do more with less, really, which is important these days, of course.
So you mentioned RPA. Anything in specific that partners are looking towards, or is it a generic or more or less more RPA standard kind of work which is centralized? Is there any specific use case that you think is important that people have seen?
I think it depends a lot on the industry, and there's all sorts of different use cases that are prevalent, and especially for partners who are solution integrators. I think there's a lot of great RPA being used in the situation where customers are, let's say, transitioning to S4HANA. And they're not doing it in a big bang, or they've got, like most organizations over the years, they've built up a lot of systems that are integrated together. And the way of maintaining the integration to those systems in a simple way that's automated, and that's not completely throwaway. So I think using tools like RPA, that's a really good use case.
Okay. There is a comment by Mark Brock. He's from, let me just check very quickly. But his comment is interesting to hear SAP's views. Thanks for sharing, guys. So he's from Challenge by Design, and he's the head of social sales enablement at Oracle, actually. That's interesting. Okay. There's a question from Gareth, our good old Gareth Lloyd from SAP. And he's asking, Adam, what industries are you seeing that are leading the way when it comes to innovation in ANZ?
I think in ANZ, we're definitely seeing a big shift in E&R. Obviously, it's fresh in my mind, especially at the moment with, what's been happening in the energy sector, with the move to renewables, to shoring up, what's happening in the network, to, thinking about, so not necessarily technology things that are driving it, but it's market forces, it's climate change, these sort of mega trends that are impacting the industry that are, in a way, forcing organizations to become more innovative to stay relevant. I think that's definitely an area that is exciting.
Okay, another question from Gareth, and that is, what has been your career highlight to date working at SAP?
Oh, geez, that's a hard one. I mean, I came from the project background, so the thing about projects is you get this kind of high, like it's a lot of hard work. It's really like go, and then you succeed, and then you move on to the next one. And so you're always looking for that success, and to kind of really feeling of achievement. I think we already talked about Cirque du Soleil. I mean, for me, that's like a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity to be here in Australia and work with an organisation like that. It was really inspiring. I really enjoyed that. And I think something like I touched on the Barbados one. I mean, that's again one of those sort of lifetime opportunities to go and work at a brewery in Barbados on mobile proof of delivery. That was pretty exciting too.
Okay. So thank you, Adam. I'm done with my questions. We ran through good 35 minutes, and I think we've had around about, if I'm not wrong, 250 people watching us over the span of half an hour, which is quite good by all means. So Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and have a good day.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks to Shailendra, and look forward to the next episode.
Thank you. Okay, guys, that was Adam, and thank you everyone for joining us to this episode. See you next week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. with another high performer on Meet the People at SAP ANZ. Till then, ciao.